name is Damousi. I'm the President of the Australian Academy of the Humanities. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the annual Academy 51st Symposium, which this week will take place on webinar. I join you today from the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. The Academy is the peak national body for the humanities in Australia and one of the 4 learned academies alongside our colleagues in the Academies of Science, Technology and Engineering and the Social Sciences. We exist to ensure the humanities in Australia thrive and excel because we believe a better future for all humanity depends on ethical, historical, creative and cultural knowledge and expertise. Our symposium has been held every year since the Academy was established in 1969 and showcases the rich research expertise that resides within the Academy and within the broader cultural community. It also provides a vitally important national platform for informed debate and discussion on matters of immediate concern to our communities and to the nation as a whole. This year's theme on culture and creativity is one which has always played a central and important role in national life, but it has taken on a new meaning and a sense of urgency with the devastating impact of COVID-19. While the pandemic is of course of immediate concerns, it is not the only challenge to the cultural creative sector, which has faced many disruptions prior to 2020. So what now for Australia's cultural future? This is the question our speakers will grapple with over the course of this week. This year's program has been convened by Malcolm Gillies, Sheila Macdassa, Jennifer Milam and Joanna Tompkins. They have assembled a remarkable range of speakers and we are deeply grateful to all involved for their time, effort and expertise in convening such a rich and thoughtful program. We are also delighted to feature this year a commissioned performance by singer-songwriter Nancy Bates, and we're very excited that Nancy will join us to perform her song for the closing event on Friday. We acknowledge and thank our principal sponsor for this year's symposium, A New Approach, ANA. We're extremely proud of what has been achieved during the 3 years in which the Academy was tasked with establishing and incubating the ANA program with the close input of many experts that volunteer their time for the various advisory groups. ANA has delivered a series of 5 outstanding reports, provided a rich source of data and information for the cultural and creative sector and for policymakers, which have inspired many of the symposium sessions during the course of this week. We will be joined by many of the people who helped make ANA happen, representatives of the funders, the reference group, the steering committee, the Academy's research working group and the program director. I'm very pleased to hand over now to Mr Wally Bell, who has generously agreed to welcome us to country. Wally is an elder of the Ngunnawal people, the traditional custodians of the Canberra region and on the lands on which the Australian Academy of the Humanities is housed. We will then hear a message from the Hon Paul Fletcher, Minister for Communication, Cyber Security and the Arts, and on behalf of the Academy, I warmly thank the Minister for welcoming delegates to this year's symposium. As we are in webinar format this year, should you have any technical questions, the Academy team is on hand to assist. Just email events@humanities.org.au. And finally, I hope you will join us each day for a daily dose of ideas and inspiration and that you enjoy the timely and thought-provoking program over the next 2 days. Thank you.
Yuma. Hello. My name is Wally Bell. I'm an Ngunnawal man. I have lived on this country all my life. This country is Ngunnawal country. It's on this country that I learnt all about my culture through the teachings of my father. My people, the Ngunnawal, have lived here for at least 25,000 years, and we are still present today. We occupy an area of something like 17,000 square kilometres, and I can say that I have had the privilege of seeing just about all that country due to my cultural heritage management works, where I go out on country to look after my culture. So the Ngunnawal people then have 7 different clan groups. My clan group is the Yart people. We come from a place they now call Yass. Part of being Aboriginal means that we have to abide by certain communal laws, which is the LAW law, but we all have to abide by, right across Australia, every Aboriginal tribal group has to abide by our traditional customary law. It's LORE. Now that law dictates what we must do as Aboriginal people on our country. Now those laws are very diversified. Practices are quite different right across Australia. So with that in mind, what I'm doing here today is going to be what is known as a welcome to country. Now a lot of people don't really understand why we do welcome to country. We do welcome to country not only just to welcome you onto our land, but we also have to make sure that while you're here, you are looked after and cared for. So as part of our welcome to country, we offer up a protection for you, which comes in 2 forms. First form is a physical protection which will be taken care of by our spirit of the land. That means that as you're actually walking around on Ngunnawal country, treading foot on the land itself, the land will then look after you, make sure that nothing happens to you. The second part of that is a spiritual protection, which is going to be taken care of by our ancestral spirits, which are our past generations that have returned back to the land. Everybody watching has their own personal aura. Now that aura at times can be affected. You know, you can feel sad or sick or something on the downside. And we believe that is because there's bad spirit out there, stuff we don't want on country, because we don't want it affecting you as a person, and we don't want it to affect the land that you're on. So we got to get rid of that bad stuff. And that's where we ask our ancestral spirits to do that for us. Now then, to get those spirits here to join me and welcome you onto country, I need to make a little bit of noise and call for those spirits to come and join me in welcoming you onto our country and looking after you while you're here. I do that with clapsticks. Okay. Badie, 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 badie. Badie, 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 badie. As I said, I do a lot of cultural heritage management works out on country, so I have a really strong connection with my country. I can feel those spirits have now joined us. As I said then, the spirit of the land will look after you as you're walking around, exploring our beautiful country. And right at this very moment, our ancestral spirits are looking at your auras, seeing if there's any bad stuff there, any bad spirit, any bad energy. They want to get rid of that. So if they find it, they just grab hold of it and throw it off country, because we don't want it here. We don't want it to affect you as a person, and we don't want it to affect the land that you're on as well. Because we need a good, clean, productive country to survive. The spirits then ask that you do two things while you're on country. First one, a really important one, is to respect this place that you're in. Look after it and care for it, as we have done for thousands of years. Second thing they want you to do is to also respect and be kind and courteous to other people that you meet while you're on country. So if you do these two things for us, the spirits will harmonise with your stay on Ngunnawal country. I'll finish off with some language. Dalawa nunna, dalawa Ngunnawal. Yangu, Yilawiri, Dunamayan, Ngunnawal, Yumalundi. This land is Ngunnawal land. We come together today to sit and talk. Welcome.
Well, I'm very pleased to be able to speak to you by video at the Australian Academy of Humanities Symposium, your 51st annual gathering, I understand, looking at the question of the future of cultural policy in Australia. And I also want to acknowledge particularly a new approach, the think tank, which has been doing such good work in asking questions about arts policy in Australia. What is it that we're trying to achieve? What are our objectives? How do we deliver on those objectives? It's very timely to be asking those questions because, of course, the impact of COVID on the arts and culture sector has been profound. Venues closed, performances cancelled, artists losing their gigs. Of course, we are now starting to see some green shoots, some early shafts of light. We're seeing theatre, music, dance, other performance beginning to open up around Australia, typically though in settings where halls, theatres have a third or a quarter of their normal capacity. So that's clearly not an economically sustainable model, but it's a good first step. I was really interested in the report that A New Approach put out a little earlier this year, A View from Middle Australia, which had some fascinating insights into the way that many Australians think about arts and culture. And I think it really challenged some myths, this idea that the arts is seen as purely an elitist pursuit. In fact, I think it's a very encouraging report, but also has some important touchstones about what we should be thinking about in framing arts policy. I've recently asked the House of Representatives Communications and the Arts Committee to kick off an inquiry into the question of particularly the economic impact of the arts, but also obviously looking at, linked to that, what's the policy rationale for public funding of the arts? What is it that we're trying to achieve? And that's a timely question at any point. But right now, as we're trying to reactivate arts activity as we come out of COVID, it's a particularly important question. Of course, we've committed very extensive funding, $250 million under our JobMaker plan for the creative economy. Indeed, in the year so far, we've announced almost $800 million of additional funding for arts activity on top of our business as usual funding of around $750 million. So there's no shortage of money going into the sector, but it's more than money that we need to debate and think about. We need to have a clear idea of what we're seeking to achieve with arts policy, and certainly I expect to be informed by the deliberations of the Creative Economy Task Force, which we've established, again associated with our commitment of $250 million in additional funding to help the arts sector get restarted. And that Creative Economy Task Force, led by Liz-Anne McGregor, has commenced its work, and I'm looking forward to receiving their advice. But I'm also interested in the views and opinions that are discussed at today's symposium. This is an important set of issues. It's important for the richness of life of all Australians. It's important for our democracy, and it's important for everybody who cares about the arts and culture in Australia. So thank you for the effort and energy that you're all putting into today. I'm sure there's going to be lots of good ideas exchanged, and I look forward to having the benefit of receiving those ideas and being able to factor them in to the very extensive thinking we're doing within the Morrison government about the way in which we support the arts sector in Australia.